Hi guys, it's Savannah. It's finally nice to meet you from Women in the Body. Today I'm going to be talking about racialized bodies and basically how the media is one of its biggest influences within our system. Racialized bodies is the process of identifying and categorizing bodies based off physical features, social practice, regional areas, and cultural similarities. Race is a social construct and is used to perpetuate a hierarchy within our system, within our world and social system. Since there's a system filled with those on the top and those on the bottom, who determines where each race is placed, and how can one force each into that category? Racialized bodies came about back in the historic days of Christopher Columbus slaughtering millions of Native Americans. Once the colonies began to rise, slavery began. Africans were brought to America to work for labor, where they were treated as nothing but property. Throughout the thousands of years, whites have become the dominant race and have felt a superiority over these people and other groups of people who immigrated to the U.S. For example, the Asians that migrated over here, and the Hispanics that have migrated over here, and the Muslim the Muslim people who have migrated over here. It is proven that when a certain group of people, or even just one person, has a privilege over the other, it can actually physically alter their brain to feel that superiority and feel better than them. For example, the prison Stanford experiment, where was when scientists got together two groups of students from Stanford, and one group played the role of the guards in the prison, and the others played the prisoners. And they actually had to stop the experiment because the roles actually began to embed within these students' brains. Like they actually started beating, like the guards would beat the prisoners and the prisoners would accept the brutality. They actually began to accept this, forgetting that, this was just an experiment. They were just regular students, a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago. So it just proves that through the thousands of years of the dominant race constantly being on the top and having that privilege, that there is an extreme superiority dichotomy going on here. Racialized bodies are produced through our seven social institutions: government, media, economy, medicine, religion, family, and education. Each institution is set up to be equal for all, but is predominantly in favor for the dominant race. Media is, to me, one of the biggest influences within our country and world, just because as technology increases, people are absorbing more and more. I personally think that the media has a bigger influence on women over men within our society, because we are told that we are not good enough without enhancements to our physical appearance. The media is solely based on physical appearances of people. Growing up, we see these images considered to be beautiful. We absorb them and take them in and subconsciously compare ourselves to them and desire to look like them. And if we don't, then we don't feel beautiful, or we're not considered what is beautiful. So all of the standards that have been built in this society are based on white standards, white beauty standards. Therefore, any girl who isn't white, or at least doesn't look white, is left feeling like the outcast. This is a quote from this woman named Meher Ahmad. She is a Muslim woman who lived in the United States. I would go into the bathroom I shared with my younger brother, waiting for my family to either leave the house or fall asleep, before taking gobs of hot goo to my face with a popsicle stick. It felt like I was frosting a hairy cake. I'd wait for it to dry, contemplating my existence, wishing I were a white girl. She wrote this article basically talking about how she was mistreated during grade school because she was hairy and had facial hair. And the kids would call her a terrorist just because she was a Muslim girl, a hairy terrorist. So she had to deal with this constant battle of trying to overcome that insecurity that she had, even till she was a grown woman. She ended the article even stating that she still is not completely over that insecurity. Um, Within American culture, women are not supposed to have body hair because it's considered undesirable and ugly or masculine. And a woman in society, you're supposed to be very not gonna say docile, but essentially docile for the man. You know, it's supposed to be physically attractive and captivating for a man's eye. Within the Black community, being that African Americans are the most marginalized group in the country, we are constantly reminded through media that our look is not considered beautiful. Most women considered to be beautiful are thin white women, and as time continues more and more, white women, as well as other races that aren't African American, are altering their bodies to get the common features of African American women. For example, lip enhancements, hip and butt enhancements, and now even wearing wigs and weaves. When on a Black girl, they are not as praised as much as on a white woman. They may even be called a ratchet for wearing a weave or over-sexualized for having a more curvaceous body. I read an article called The Right to be a Black Girl, and the author described her experience in grade school where she was better than Black girls because she wasn't ratchet, but also wasn't good enough for the white standards due to her physical appearance and her African American features. The intersections, this is a quote from her article, the intersections of racism and sexism, known as misogynoir, make it impossible for Black girls to appeal to the standards white supremacy has set for us, no matter how we dress or act. So I think this quote is really amazing because misogynoir is something that I really like to talk about and I almost specialize in, because being a Black woman, constantly trying to feel like I can fit in or feel noticed by a certain group of people or even just the whole group, you know, it can definitely weigh down on your self-esteem. The media affects other races as well. For example, Hispanic women. Since most Hispanic women resemble some white features, they don't deal with as much scrutiny as long as they dress and act like white women. If not, they deal with racism and even over-sexualization as well. Within the South Florida community, Hispanic girls identified as chongas face the discrimination due to media representation. This is a quote from an article I read by Jillian Hernandez, and she says, chongas have been compared to Bratz dolls because of their style and dress and heavy application of makeup. Often described by Latinos in South Florida as low-class, tough, slutty, crass young women. And she's basically discussing how, as feminists, discuss a lot of the issues, misogynist issues we deal with in society. Chongas are often looked past and unheard of or not really thought of. And that's because they also deal with other intersections of race and sex, as well as African American women. She also discusses the over-sexualization of these women and the discrimination they feel from whites and those of their own culture. Media even, you know, causes discrimination within one's culture. It's very big. For example, a lot of African American men will discriminate against other African American women because they will say, she's too ratchet, or, you know, I don't like this about her, I don't like that. You know, they prefer to go for women not of color, and that is okay, but it shouldn't be for the reasons of these stereotypes that are made, because that in itself is just perpetuating the racism within our society. Racialized bodies are what make up our corrupt, oppressive system. Without this hierarchy, those of the dominant race would not be upheld. But by covertly embedding racism within these social institutions, they're able to stay the dominant race and control our country. So through through all of the other factors of the dominant, of social institutions, it's very easy to covertly embed racism within it. And when I say that, I mean when the systems are set up by the dominant race, then they can basically set the rules for everyone else. And if you don't fit that, then they discriminate you, they make you feel inferior, and that is how they're able to control most of these people, or they create these images of these people to scare the bigger population. For instance, seeing an African American person in, let's say, a predominantly white community, people will think, oh, what is he doing? What are you doing here? And it can just cause a lot of controversy. And by doing that, that's what keeps everyone in that box, that oppressed box. So as people begin to learn more and become enlightened on the topic, it can really make a difference within our world and country, and really stop these horrible stereotypes and these notions of oppression within our world, and really change the lives of a lot of people. So I really hope that people learn more about this and take interest into some other factors of the world. So thank you.